Welcome back. 17 minutes past 6 here on Morning Live. Now, the Democratic Alliance has chosen its man to lead Johannesburg. Soweto-born Mmusi Maimane is the DA's mayoral candidate for the upcoming local government elections. One of the biggest issues in Joburg is the irregular billing system. The city is currently working to ensure that residents receive accurate bills. Decent housing for the poor, urban decay, and the tolling systems are all the issues frustrating residents. But another frustrating thing is, of course, is the picket-up strike that's currently got Joburg under grips right now. But let's find out from the man himself, Mmusi Maimane, the DA's mayoral candidate for Joburg, to give his vision for this city. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
No, thank you so much for having me, Leah.
What is your vision for Joburg? How do you see the city?
Well, you know, Joburg is an economic hub for South Africa. We believe that fundamentally, at its first place, we need to create an administration in Joburg that makes it attractive for investment to come through. Because we believe if we're really going to curb the scourge of unemployment, we have to make sure the city is financially viable. I think the second thing is we want to see a clean city, and by that I mean it has to be free of corruption, but it also, in its own aesthetics, needs to be clean and needs to be an attractive city for people to live in and to work in. And I believe that when we increase the right efficiencies in the city, we can be able to deliver, i.e. issues like the billing, the roads, all are a function of creating good leadership that is able to deliver efficient services to people of Johannesburg. We want to make this city great, and that's what, and great, and for services to be delivered to all who call Joburg their home, and that's really what my primary driver is.
Let's put you in the pound seat right now, and we've got this picket-up situation that's happening, where we are in 3 weeks of no refuse being removed from anywhere in Johannesburg. What would you do in a situation like this?
I think if you examine the situation quite thoroughly, you discover that, first of all, the strike was sparked off by people sitting down and saying we want management that is transparent. And I think the first thing that you've got to do is you've got to create the right leadership within Pick It Up. It's clear to me that when you have municipal-owned entities that are poorly led, you'll end up with these sorts of strikes. The second thing is I think we've been poor at strategically engaging unions. And unions such as SAMU, we should have engaged them a lot earlier as the city in terms of being able to strategically plan as to how we deal with these coming up now. And then thirdly, I think the communication has been quite poor. Nobody really knows what half the reasons are for the strike, and I think we should heighten how we communicate to people. Everyone should be able to know when the strike is happening, how it's going to happen, and how it's going to impact them. But then thirdly, we need to be clever about protecting municipal-owned entities. At this moment, Pick It Up have exclusive rights to that. If we're going to set it up as a standalone entity, then we have to be able to allow a sense of competition so that other entities can come into the space. But if they're really going to be city-owned and city-managed, then we need to make sure that the systems are efficient so that we'll never be held hostage by employees.
Yeah, one thing that you pointed out is to work on big budget issues as well as potholes and traffic management. Elaborate a little bit on this for us.
Part of the challenge with potholes is that potholes are a provider of JRA, which is a municipal-owned entity that delivers on that. And part of it is we have to make sure we put the right preventative measures. I mean, if you figure out how a pothole emerges, some of it has to do with cleaning of the streets, making sure that the drainage works properly so that water doesn't collect and dust, creating potholes. But our infrastructure maintenance program is poor. Our city of Joburg is probably in the lower rank of municipalities countrywide who spend money on maintenance. And so we need to look at ways where we can double that budget in order that we become effective at that. But the third thing that we're proposing as the Democratic Alliance is that actually we need to decentralize power. At this stage, all the complaints are centered around the JRA, and we're saying if we propose sub-councils, so in other words, if we put a council closest to where people are at, you can be able to walk to a sub-council that is closest to you, be able to respond to the issues that deal with you. So that this doesn't become a city-wide issue, that if we deal with robots that are broken, if we deal with potholes, that they are localized, so that you can go to your local sub-council with the accountability of your ward committee plus your elected representatives, so that we can is appropriate for your area. And that's what we're really saying if we decentralize it, then we're efficient in terms of how we can deal with those issues.
One other issue that I think is huge for Gauteng at the moment is the issue of the e-tolling system, and the reality that as Joburg is traveling on a road, on any N1, we're going to be landing up paying 66 cents per kilometer. Obviously, we've heard that we're only going to get a decision on the pricing structure after the elections, which I think is unfair to the voters, because this, at the end of the day, is a service. Again, what are your views on this? What do you feel about something?
You know, Leanne, part of the frustration with the tolling system, firstly, it's a provider of provincial government, and so that is something that the province will need to respond to in terms of how we deal with the tolling issue. But I think for us, as the city of Joburg, it's important that we're able to shield the consumer from an escalating pricing on very different issues. And so that is part of my mandate, to ensure that the problem with the tolling first is that it will heighten the cost of doing business in the city. So you and I, as private individuals, our travel costs will go up, but also for business will go up. And so those who are going to be hard hit are the poorest in terms of the multiplier effects that go with it. We're proposing that actually we need to look at other means that are able to deal with shielding the consumer from high escalating costs. And those have to do with how we manage our water supply, how we deal with other infrastructure such as electricity, etc., and make sure that where it's going to also affect us as the city of Joburg is that as people consider alternative routes, those will increase how we need to maintain those other alternate routes. So I think provincial government needs to be able to deal with this issue.
All right, just finally, before I let you go, I think one of the big things about the DA is that when one looks at the party itself, it's predominantly known as a white party. How are you going to come into this space now?
I think, you know, it's a historical assumption that it's a white party. I think when you look prospectively, the DA is the most diverse party, statistically. So, and I'm seeing an increasing amount of people in Soweto and Alexandra, in Rabi Ridge, who are growing and saying, black people who are saying that DA is a home for us. But I think also what's really great about this election is that you're dealing with two parties who have got track records. And so we're looking at the track record of Cape Town, the track record of Johannesburg, and we're saying where two parties govern, who delivers the best services. And I think people are starting to realize that. I was in Zanspruit yesterday, and more people are saying, hey, actually, government needs to be about the delivery of service, not about our past. And so it's becoming an increasing sense, and I'm really excited about the journey as the party is becoming more and more diverse.
Well, South Africa, here is your DA mayoral candidate for Johannesburg, Mmusi Maimane. Thank you very much for being our guest here on Morning Live.
No, thank you so much.
Let's get you a sports update now. Vuya's got our details.